Hello everyone. So we're going to start MS Excel today. So when you start Excel, go to start, you type Excel and you open the Excel worksheet. This is the screen that you see. This is the backstage view that you see, right? So like in any MS Office application, say your Word or your PowerPoint, you have the similar backstage view over here also. The launching screen or the startup screen is very similar to any other MS Office application. So you have your recent worksheets here, you have your templates here, and you have a blank workbook. So there is a difference between a blank a workbook and a worksheet. We will discuss that shortly. The rest of things is similar to any MS Office application which I've already covered, so I'm not going to look into that. So I'll just click on blank workbook and I'll start a new a new Excel workbook, right? So a workbook is simply a collection of worksheets together. जो आप यहाँ पे area देख रहे हो, this region wherein you can see the grid lines, the cells, this is your worksheet. A workbook is simply a collection of many worksheets. If you could see in the bottom of this particular worksheet, you have sheet 1. I can insert sheet 2, I can insert sheet 3, and so on and so forth. So a workbook is a collection of all these sheets. In Excel, a maximum of one workbook can consist of a maximum of 255 worksheets. And of course, it might be a little less depending upon your computer memory also, and also which version of Excel, which version of MS Office you are using. So the interface, again, it is similar to other Office applications. You have your quick access toolbar, you have your title bar, close, maximize, minimize options, you have the ribbon, you have your status bar, and of course you have your worksheet or your work area. Now you have two other things in addition to the existing, the common interface items, interface elements. One thing is your name box and the other thing is your formula bar. So the name box is simply, it says wherever your cursor is in the worksheet, it gives us a reference or an address of that particular cell. These boxes in your worksheet are called cells. If I keep my cursor here and see my name box, it says H5. So H is actually the column header and 5 is the row header. So column headers and row headers actually give you your cell references. This H5, this F6, G5, G4, wherever I'm moving my cursor, these addresses are called cell references, right? So every cell has a cell reference and it is the column header and then the row header together, right? K3, L3, so on and so forth. So we just found out what are cell references. If you click on any cell, you can find out the cell address in the name box, right? So to make any entry in a particular cell, you just have to double click. You have to double click on any cell to make an entry. If you could observe, there are different types of alignments for different entries. Say for example, these are text items, right? For any text that has been entered in an Excel worksheet, every text is left aligned unless you change the alignment, you change it to right or you change it to center. Everything is left aligned. If you are entering certain numbers, say for example, I am going to enter certain values in this particular budget sheet. I am going to just give some values for rent, car, credit cards, food, and phone. I'll just type certain values. Say my rent is fixed for all of these months. For car, I'm just spending so much. Credit cards, it's I just give some random details. Alright, so if you could observe, you can see that all my text is left aligned and all my numeric entries, numeric values are right aligned. right? So Excel अपने आप समझ लेता है, Excel अपने आप it understands that the entries are text or numbers and it changes the alignment accordingly. If you could observe carefully over here, the date entries, those are also right aligned. Why? Because by default Excel considers date. Excel treats dates as numeric entries, right? Unless you change it, of course, unless you manually try to keep it left aligned or center aligned based on your formatting settings. So text is left aligned, numeric values are right aligned by default, so that Excel can distinguish between certain data. Excel will know that if I am performing a calculation, have I not missed out any other details, any other value, any other cell, have I not missed out that? So to distinguish from these things, Excel categorizes or separates the alignment of both these values separately. Now, for example, if I have certain decimal values, you can also observe that for decimal values, the decimal point is also very equally placed among entries. If you could see, decimal numbers are also right aligned, and you can also see that there is a clear distinguishing factor between the right and the left side of the decimal values. So the point actually appears very clearly for all of these rows. There is nothing like, एक आगे पीछे नहीं आता है. This clear distinction is also because the numbers are right aligned. If you keep it left aligned, see, can you see, it is not necessarily very clearly distinguished whether these are decimal numbers, decimal point, either udhar hai. So if you just if it is kept in right aligned, you can actually see the clear distinction or distinguishing factor between these decimal numbers. So when you enter dates in Excel, you can also change the format of entering these dates, of how these dates should appear. For example, I just have three letters of month and a dash and then two numeric values of year. So if I want to change it, if I want to change the format, if you could see in the home tab, you have something called a number group, right? Just go to that and click on the drop down. If you want, you can keep a short date. A short date is such a this format, and then if I want a long date, I can do this. But over here I am calculating budget. So for budget, I am not necessarily spending for car 560 rupees on 1st January. It is for the entire month, so this doesn't make sense for me. So what I can do is I can customize. So I can just go to more number formats, and I can go to custom over here and actually type whatever format I want. I can also include hours, minutes, seconds. So it depends on what kind of format I want, what kind of specification is required. So let's say I want this, right? Three letters from month and two numerical values from year. So I just click on OK. If you could see, my date is automatically changed. So you can customize any kind of number format from here. In fact, you can, if you want to convert this to a percentage factor, you can use the percentage symbol, or you can use, if I don't want a percentage, it is just number, I'll click on number, or I can just give in general no specific format. So we're going to talk a little more about cell references. So cell references are very important as far as formulas are concerned. I am sure you might be knowing that Excel में mostly हम formulas use करते हैं, right? You perform calculations using Excel. So in that case, cell references का concept is extremely important when you are actually performing calculations using certain formulas, right? So what you can do is, ideally any formula begins with an equal to, right? कोई भी फॉर्मूला इक्वल टू से ही स्टार्ट होती है. अगर इक्वल टू से स्टार्ट नहीं हो रही है देन इट डजंट मीन इट इज़ अ फॉर्मूला. एक्सेल विल नॉट अंडरस्टैंड that it is not a formula, right? So there are, if I have to give you some brief about how formulas can be inserted. So there are three parts to a formula. One is an equal to, another one is your functions that are there in Excel. Of course, if it is not necessary that for basic calculations you use functions. जैसे आपका addition हो गया, subtraction, multiplication, calculating percentages, average. For these things you can of course perform mathematical calculations directly in Excel. But for certain complicated functions, complicated calculations, you will be expected or you are required to use functions in Excel. So the first part of the formula is your equal to, the second part is your functions, and the third part is something called arguments. आपको ये जो आपने function बोला है, where do you want to run this particular function? If I want to run it in this particular area, इस block की addition sum मेरे को चाहिए. So sum is your function and your argument is the references of these cells. ठीक है? So cell references is very important because you are telling your formula that इस जगह पे आप function करो, इस जगह पे आप formula को run करो, right? So formula, I'm so sorry. Your cell references are very important while performing calculations. So let's say I want to calculate the total I have spent on rent for the 3 months. So my formula begins with an equal to, right? I select this particular cell. See, I can also write 200 plus 1200 plus 1200, right? But मेरे को ऐसा फॉर्मूला चाहिए, मान लो मैंने यहाँ पे 1200 की जगह 1400 लिखा है, ठीक है? I want my formula to update automatically, ठीक है? उसके लिए I want to give cell references. Say for example, if I am selecting this particular cell, I can use my mouse or else I can use my navigation keys to select this cell, ठीक है? Plus this cell, plus this cell, and I'm clicking on enter, right? Now let me just change some value over here. Let me change this to 1500. If you could see, my total is also changing, right? My total is automatically changing with respective to changes over here. That is why we use cell references. Cell references हम इसीलिए यूज करते हैं ताकि अगर डेटा में कुछ भी चेंज हो, मेरा फॉर्मूला में आंसर अपने आप अपडेट हो जाएगा, ठीक है? That is why I use cell references. Now I just want to calculate the same total for car, credit card, food, phone, and food and phone bills. So what I can do is, rather than बार कौन type करेगा ना, we can just copy paste it. So to copy paste, either I can use this small plus sign and I can drag this over, or else what I can do is I can use my shift and my down arrow key and click Control plus D. Control plus D click करने से my formula is getting copied in the downward direction. If easy way to remember is Control C is the shortcut to copy. Control D will copy it in the downward direction, right? अगर आप ध्यान से सुनोगे, ध्यान से देखोगे तो आपकी फर्स्ट सेल फॉर्मूला बार में जाके देखो, यहाँ पे B5, C5, D5 है. If I move to the next cell, it is B6, C6, D6. But हमने तो रेफरेंस चेंज ही नहीं किया ना, हमने तो सिर्फ फॉर्मूला कॉपी किया है. Then how is this moving? This concept is called relative referencing. Relative referencing means आपके फॉर्मूला की पोजीशन के हिसाब से आपकी रेफरेंसेस आर मूविंग. That is called relative referencing. Right? Now what if I want to calculate the percentage? So I can also calculate my total over here in a similar manner. So equal to, I can click on this cell plus this cell plus this cell plus this and then phone, right? Now I want to copy my formula in the right direction, so I will just select it and then click on Control R. Right, my formula gets copied in the right direction. Or else you could have simply used this particular plus sign and dragged it over. Okay? So to copy my formula in the right direction, select the cells and Control R. To copy it in the downward direction, select the cells and Control D. Okay? So every formula, if you check the location, यहाँ पे B6, B5, B6, B7, B8, B9. If I move here, it is becoming C5 to C9. My references are moving with respective to the location of my formula. So it is not a fixed reference. It performs the same formula, same function in a different reference relative to its location. So that is called relative referencing. Let's say in the same manner we calculate percentage also. What is the percentage that I have spent on rent for the 3 months? So simple mathematical formula, total amount spent on rent divided by the total amount spent altogether, right? My entire expenditure. So I am clicking on enter. I got my percentage. So let me just select the cells and do Control D. तो ये गलत आ रहा है. Why is it coming wrong? Because जैसे आपने move किया, see for example this is in F5. So what we did, E5 divided by E10. ठीक है? Let's see what's the formula over here. It is E6 divided by E11. E6 तो सही है, लेकिन E11 में कोई entry ही नहीं है ना. So we have to fix E10. Only then we can get the percentage. Similarly over here, E7 तो सही है, लेकिन E12 में कोई entry ही नहीं है. So anything divided by 0 is, you don't divide anything by 0, right? So that is why you're getting this error. So in order to fix this particular location, what you can do is you can insert a dollar symbol before the row header and the column header. So I'm inserting a dollar symbol. Shift plus number 4 is your dollar symbol. So I have fixed this particular cell. Can you see this? I have just fixed this particular cell. I will not fix E5. Why? Because my E5 will move to the next E6, E7. Because what is the percentage I'm spending on car will be the total amount I'm spending on car divided by the total, right? So I have to just fix this particular total value. So मैं सिर्फ इस cell को fix करूँगी, ठीक है? If I click on enter and then select and do Control D, I am getting my answer. Another shortcut to insert this dollar sign is you can click on the function key F4. If I am clicking on the function key F4, अपने आप both my row header, row as well as the column get fixed, right? So this is called fixing a particular reference. So this is called fixed referencing or absolute referencing. Right? This is called fixed or absolute referencing. You use your dollar sign or your F4 to fix a particular cell reference, right? So sometimes what happens is you need to just fix the row. आपको सिर्फ row fix करना होगा, नहीं तो आपको सिर्फ column fix करना होगा. So then what you can do is, say for example you have to fix the column F. So आप dollar F से पहले insert करोगे, the row header will, the row number will remain relative. It will keep moving, right? So that is it with the referencing.